I worked the night shift at a hospital laundry unit. 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Came home early one morning with a migraine and a busted lunchbox, and found my wife in our backyard, half-dressed and giggling with the septic tank technician. His boots were covered in filth. Her hands were around his neck. They both saw me. She didn't stop. She laughed. My name's Troy. I'm 41 years old. I work nights at a medical laundry facility in North Carolina. Not glamorous, just constant heat, damp uniforms, bleach burns on my arms, and the quiet hope that one day I'd save enough to get promoted out of it. My wife's name is Julia. We've been married for 6 years. No kids, unless you count the 4 cats she rescued from the shelter and stopped cleaning up after. She hasn't worked in 2 years. Says her nervous system's too sensitive for pressure. Most days she reads conspiracy forums, takes long bubble baths, and orders crystals online for protection. I paid the rent, the insurance, the DoorDash, everything. Still, I loved her. At least I thought I did. Last Tuesday morning, my shift ended early, power failure at the plant. I texted Julia but got no response. Thought I'd surprise her with breakfast. Maybe even sleep next to her for once instead of collapsing on the couch like usual. When I got home, I noticed something strange. Our gate was open. Then I heard it. A laugh. Not just hers, his. I walked quietly to the backyard. There they were. She was sitting on a broken lawn chair, barefoot, wearing the nightgown I bought her last Christmas. He stood between her knees, face covered in stubble and dirt. His name tag hung from his coveralls, Stanley, Septic Division. My wife had her hand behind his neck, whispering something in his ear. He laughed again. I dropped the takeout bag. The clamshell cracked on the pavement. She turned first. Didn't gasp. Didn't run. Just looked at me and said, "Oh, you're home early." Stanley pulled away fast, stammered something, and grabbed his clipboard like that would erase what I saw. "Julia?" She stood up slowly, stretched, and said, "Well, this is awkward." I couldn't speak. My legs felt like concrete. My lungs like torn plastic. She walked toward me, barefoot on the concrete. "It's not what it looks like," she said casually. "Unless it looks like I'm finally getting some attention." Stanley disappeared through the gate. Left it swinging. She didn't chase him. She didn't apologize. She just looked me up and down and said, "Wow, you really came straight from work looking like that." I turned and walked inside. My breakfast was cold. My couch still smelled like bleach. I sat in the silence and realized she didn't hide it because she wanted me to see it. I stayed in the house for the rest of that day, curled up on the recliner like some injured animal. The smell of detergent still clung to my skin from the hospital uniforms, but I couldn't get the other stench off me. Humiliation. Julia stayed outside for almost an hour after Stanley left. Then she came in like nothing happened, tossed her nightgown in the laundry basket, poured herself a glass of almond milk, opened a bag of chips. I watched her from the hallway. When she noticed me, she didn't flinch. "You okay?" she asked, genuinely curious, like I'd just stubbed my toe. I said nothing. She crunched another chip. "Look, Troy, I know how this looks, but it's not like I cheated with someone important. He literally cleans waste tanks." That hit harder than it should have. I whispered, "Then why?" She rolled her eyes, walked over, and leaned against the wall. "Because I was bored. Because I was lonely. Because every time I look at you, you're either asleep or smelling like hospital rot. Because I needed to feel wanted." "I want you," I said. "I always have." She smirked. "Yeah, in the same way you want cold pizza at 3 a.m. Not because it's good, just because it's there." That one cracked something in me. Still, I said what no one with self-respect should ever say. "I can forgive you." Her head tilted. "Seriously? I just want to fix this. We can talk. Go to therapy. We can." She started laughing. Not nervously. Not guiltily. Full, open laughter right in my face. "Therapy," she said, wiping a tear. "Troy, you're adorable. You think this is some little detour I took? I haven't loved you in over a year." I stood there, heart thumping like a drum made of glass. She kept going. "You're so trusting. You never ask questions. You leave at 6 p.m., you come back at 6 a.m., and I get 12 whole hours of freedom to do whatever I want. Honestly, I didn't even think you'd notice if I cheated." I finally snapped. "I noticed." She shrugged. "Good. Maybe now you'll do something interesting." I walked out of the room, locked myself in the bathroom, ran cold water over my face like it could wash off everything she just said. That night, She ordered sushi and watched a reality show in bed. I sat on the living room floor, trying to breathe through the storm inside me. Still, I thought about apologizing. Still, I thought maybe I could win her back. Still, I loved her, and that made me hate myself even more. The next morning, I left early for work, earlier than usual. I didn't have a shift. I just couldn't look at her face. But as I sat in my truck outside the hospital parking lot, watching day shift workers roll in with coffee cups and clean uniforms, a strange thought hit me. She thought I was harmless, forgettable, weak. That was my greatest weapon. She believed I'd never fight back. She was wrong. The first step of my plan wasn't dramatic. It was paperwork. I went to the credit union during lunch and opened a new account, solo. No joint access. I rerouted my direct deposit. Then I applied for a new debit card and requested no paper statements. Everything digital. Everything private. Step 2. I canceled the Amazon subscription she used to order crystals and herbal supplements every week. She noticed the next day. "Why's Prime not working?" she asked from the couch, remote in hand. "Must be a glitch," I said. She narrowed her eyes, but didn't push. Step 3. I bought a prepaid phone. Cash. No name. No trail. And on that phone, I installed 2 things. A GPS tracker app tied to her car, and a voice recorder disguised as a calculator. I hid the recorder in the laundry room, where she liked to have her loud phone conversations, usually while pacing barefoot with a wine glass in hand. By day 5, I had audio of her talking to 2 different men, neither of whom were Stanley. One of them asked, "Your husband home?" She laughed. "He's always either unconscious or at the hospital washing other people's dirty socks." It's perfect. Step 4. I took pictures of her empty wine bottles stacked behind the shed, of strange cars in our driveway at 11:45 p.m., of receipts for takeout she bought for just herself that listed 2 entrees and a 6-pack of beer. But the most important step? I visited a lawyer. Not a shark. Not some billboard guy with a gold tie. Just a quiet man named Raymond, who'd handled divorce for 2 of my coworkers. I showed him everything. He said, "She's playing games. But if you stay quiet and let her overplay her hand, we can destroy her credibility." Do I have to move out? Not yet. You moving gives her leverage. Let her be the one who cracks. I went home that night calmer than I'd been in weeks. Juliet didn't even look up from her phone when I walked in. She thought I was still bleeding inside. Still stuck. Still in love. But I was watching. Waiting. And this time, I was going to be the one who decided how this ended. It started with the car. Her car. Technically, it was in my name. I made the down payment. I paid the insurance. She just drove it around like it was hers, blasting music and leaving fast food wrappers in the back seat. That morning, while she was still asleep, I took the keys, drove it straight to the dealership and handed it over for voluntary repossession. Told them I couldn't maintain the payments anymore. The manager raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" I nodded. "Let it go." By the time she rolled out of bed and noticed, it was already gone. I was at work when she called, screaming, "You took my car." "No," I said calmly. "I took my car." She hung up. 30 minutes later, I got a text. "This is war, Troy." That's when I knew the real game had begun. Second strike came the next day. I filed a motion with Raymond's help to freeze all non-essential joint spending pending a divorce review. It was subtle, legal. She wouldn't be notified immediately, just blocked the next time she tried to swipe. And that time came fast. She tried ordering an $89 chakra tuning bowl set online. Declined. Tried again for $40 worth of wine. Declined. She texted me from the living room. "Did you mess with the cards?" I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, she stormed into the laundry room, phone in hand, muttering, "You think you're smart? You think this means anything?" She didn't know I was recording the whole thing. Her rant, her threats, her full confession to calling me useless in front of other men, and even something better. I told Kevin you wouldn't fight back, that you'd fold the second I pressed. Guess I was wrong. That clip was gold. That night, I sent a copy of our financial logs to Raymond. Labeled the wine charges, the deliveries, the late-night food. Every dollar she burned while I was breaking my back for hospital linen. Raymond smiled and said, "Let's attach this to the next filing. We'll argue dissipation of marital assets. Judges don't like it when one party treats the marriage like an open bar." When I got home, Julia was curled up on the couch, arms crossed, watching me like a hawk. "You think you've changed?" she said. No, I said, hanging my jacket. I just stopped pretending you deserved me. She didn't laugh, didn't say a word, just stared, because she felt it. For the first time, I was ahead, and she hated that more than anything. I was feeling confident. Too confident. Raymond had filed our second motion. I had the car, the accounts frozen, and enough digital evidence to bury her in family court. But I forgot something important. Julia was vicious when cornered, and she knew exactly where to hit me. The cats. All four of them were technically adopted in her name. We'd picked them out together, Scout, Marley, Dime, and Cheddar, but the shelter paperwork listed her as the sole guardian. I didn't think it mattered. Until the police showed up. 2 officers at the door. Polite, but cold. Are you Mr. Troy Dillard? Yes. Your wife filed a cruelty complaint. Said you've been neglecting the animals. Not feeding them. One was allegedly found locked in the basement for over 12 hours. I froze. What? She submitted photos. I knew which ones. 3 days ago, Cheddar snuck into the basement when I was pulling tools. I didn't see him. I found him hours later, fine, just scared. She had taken a picture, wide-eyed, curled up on the concrete floor. She was setting me up even then. I take care of all of them, I told the officers. I've always taken care of them. We're not accusing, sir. But animal control may follow up. Just be advised. They left. I sat on the couch, shaking. Julia walked in 5 minutes later, holding a cup of tea. Everything okay? She asked sweetly. You lied to the police, I said. You used the cats. She smiled. You used my car. My account. My peace of mind. You weaponized living beings. They're cats, she said coldly. They land on their feet. Can you say the same? That night, I found a note taped to the litter box. You wanted a war. This is one. It got worse. The next day, she posted on a local community forum, under her name, that she feared I was becoming unpredictable and that she had to sleep with a knife under her pillow. People responded. Sympathetically. One comment said, please stay safe. Narcissists often escalate when they lose control. That word, narcissist, clung to my throat like a hook. Because now it wasn't just between us. She was trying to shape the story, to make me the unstable, controlling, emotionally dangerous ex. And it was working. Raymond called that night. He'd seen the post. Don't respond publicly, he warned. Let her make noise. We'll use the contradiction in court. But from here on out, assume everything you say or do is being watched. She's turning people against me. She's turning herself into a caricature, he said. But yes, this is her power move. Don't underestimate it. Julia spent the next few days in control. The neighbors stopped waving. The mailman looked nervous dropping off packages. I was alone. Again. And this time, it felt like everyone believed her. The hardest part wasn't losing the house, the money, or even the cats. It was losing the benefit of the doubt. When people looked at me now, they didn't see a man who got cheated on by a bored, bitter wife. They saw the man she described online. The emotionally distant laundry worker with control issues. I wanted to scream. Instead, I got strategic. First move, I sat down with Raymond and said, I need to tell my side. But I can't look desperate. He nodded. Then don't fight fire with fire. Fight it with receipts. So that's what I did. I compiled everything. The call logs. The texts. The receipts showing I paid for vet visits, food, even her tarot readings. Photos of my lunch bags, my time-stamped work logins, my entire daily routine. I created a timeline. The day Cheddar got locked in the basement, I had clocked out at 6:02 p.m., and the shelter cameras showed me walking in to buy food at 6:18. That proved I was taking care of them, not neglecting. Raymond called it boring evidence. But in court, boring wins. Second move, I made my own post. Not a rant. Not an attack. Just one message. In the same community forum she'd used to smear me. I respect the concern for safety in our neighborhood. While I disagree with what's been said about me, I'm following legal guidance and not engaging in personal attacks. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to provide court documents. The truth matters, and I'm not ashamed of mine. That was it. Polite, clean, respectful, but firm. She hated it. That night, she knocked on my door. You posted in the forum? Yes. She stepped closer. You trying to play the victim now? I'm not playing anything, I said. I'm just tired of being lied about. Her eyes narrowed. You're not as pathetic as I thought. Thanks. She stood there like she wanted to say more, maybe even throw something, but she didn't. She left. Third move. I called animal control myself. I scheduled a voluntary home check. 2 agents came. I showed them everything: fresh litter, vet receipts, microchip documents. Even played audio from a hidden mic of Julia laughing about framing me for fun. They wrote a report. No neglect observed. Allegation appears retaliatory. Raymond smiled when he read it. Now it's your turn to shape the story. At the next hearing, we submitted that report, along with the timeline, along with the GPS proof that she was gone from the house during the time of her own complaint. The judge didn't rule that day, but I saw it in his face, in hers. The pendulum had shifted. I was no longer the one on defense. I was a man with proof. And Julia? She was running out of lies to hide behind. It happened quietly. No slamming doors. No screaming matches. No cryptic messages taped to my door like last time. Just a single envelope. Plain. White. Tucked under my windshield wiper at the hospital parking lot. Inside was a copy of a complaint filed with my employer's HR department. It claimed I had been emotionally unstable, verbally inappropriate with female staff, and had made disturbing remarks about violence in the break room. All anonymous. All false. But one sentence stood out. I believe his recent divorce and mental decline have made him a potential risk inside this facility. My stomach dropped. Julia couldn't reach me through the court anymore. She couldn't win with lawyers. So now, she was going after my job. That night, I was pulled into a meeting with HR. The woman across the desk read the entire complaint without looking me in the eyes. I could barely breathe. We're not saying these claims are verified, she said. But protocol requires us to take them seriously. You're placed on administrative leave pending investigation. My badge was deactivated. My schedule erased. I walked out the side door like a criminal. It was raining. When I got home, Julia's car was parked across the street. She wasn't inside it, just sitting in the front seat, watching the house. I didn't go to her. I didn't yell. But I looked at her, just long enough for our eyes to lock through the misty windshield. She smiled. That smile. The same one she gave me when I caught her with the septic guy. The same one she gave me when she said she hadn't loved me in a year. She rolled the window down and called out across the street, "You really should have just let me win, Troy. It would have been easier." Then she drove off. I stood there, drenched in silence. Alone. Suspended. Cornered. Even Raymond sounded uncertain when I told him. "She's not stupid," he said. "She's fabricating this one smarter. No direct connection. Just planting ideas. Whisper campaigns. She's gonna win, isn't she?" I asked. He paused. "She thinks she already has. And for the first time since this all started." I believed it too. Because she'd taken everything now, my dignity, my stability, my cats, and now my job. And I couldn't prove she filed the complaint. It was anonymous. But then, 3 nights later, I got a message. From a former coworker named Carla. Quiet. Kept to herself. She wrote, "Hey, I don't want to get involved, but I saw your ex talking to a woman in admin about filing a complaint. I think she's the one who did it. I'm sorry." Attached? A grainy photo. Julia, in the hospital cafeteria, talking to one of the HR managers, holding a folder, smiling. My hands started shaking as I stared at the screen. She'd overplayed again. And this time, I wasn't going to just push back. I was going to expose her. I printed the photo, brought it straight to Raymond's office. He studied it silently, then looked up at me. "She's too bold. Too fast." That's what people like her do when they start to lose control. They try to detonate everything before you can grab the fuse. So what now? We go after the source. And we make it public. Step 1. We requested HR disclosure under state labor law. Raymond filed a formal notice demanding a record of the complaint's origin. HR had to confirm it was filed anonymously, but thanks to internal security logs, they were required to log who used which computer to submit the form. It took 3 days. And on the 4th, Raymond got the answer. Julia submitted it. Not only that, she did it on hospital property, using a guest computer in the admin wing. That violated 2 internal rules and 1 federal privacy guideline. Raymond prepared a summary packet and walked it into the HR director's office himself. By the end of the day, I was reinstated. No apology. Just a cold email that said, "The complaint has been found to be false and retaliatory. You may return to work Monday." I didn't smile. I wasn't done. Because Julia still thought this was a game. So I made my next move louder. I compiled every false claim she'd made, From the animal control stunt to the forged financial abuse allegation, and now the HR sabotage. I packaged it all into a professional letter and sent it to her landlord. Why? Because she'd subleased her post-separation rental under false pretense. On the rental application, she wrote, unemployed due to workplace trauma, and claimed she had no legal disputes pending. False. Both provably false. The letter was anonymous, but attached were verified screenshots, timestamps, and open case filings. 2 days later, her car was gone from the lot. Another 2 days, and the landlord posted a violation review pending notice on her door. That evening, she showed up at my door. Again, no yelling this time. No smugness. Just that same hoodie. Same tired eyes. You're trying to ruin me, she said softly. You already did that to me, I replied. She looked down at her hands. I lost the apartment. They said I lied on the lease. Said they don't want the trouble. Silence. I don't have anywhere to go. I almost laughed. But instead, I just said, good. She stared at me, really stared, like she was trying to find the version of me she used to push around. He wasn't there anymore. She turned to leave, but before she walked away, she whispered, "You're not the weak one anymore. That scares me." I shut the door before I could feel anything. And that night, I slept better than I had in months. Because for the first time, she was scared. I came home from my shift Wednesday night to find a letter from the court taped to my door. Not from Julia. From the judge. Inside, a notice that my divorce motion was being challenged. She'd filed a counterclaim, requesting alimony, claiming emotional and financial destabilization resulting from abusive behavior, reputational harm, and housing insecurity. Said she was now unemployed and unable to support herself due to long-term psychological damage inflicted during the marriage. I sat on the floor of the entryway, reading it over and over, as if it might change on the 5th try. She wanted to be paid. After everything she'd done, she wanted me to cover her expenses. Rent, groceries, therapy. She attached fabricated chat logs, faked bank transfers, and even an affidavit from one of her friends claiming I was verbally volatile and withheld food as a control tactic. It was unreal. Raymond called it a full court blitz. She's trying to paint you as an aggressor. Force the court to punish you financially before we can prove anything else. He was right. I had the evidence, the audio, the receipts, but she had the narrative again. And the court? They didn't rule based on her feelings. They ruled on presented stories. I was back on the defense. And for the next 3 weeks, I lost control of everything. The HR win meant nothing in family court. The judge granted her temporary support to ensure housing and basic needs. I had to pay $850 a month while the motion played out. $850. For the woman who tried to destroy my job, frame me for neglect, and fabricate an abuse narrative so convincing that my neighbors still avoided me on the street. She won that round. She stood in the courtroom, wearing borrowed clothes, no makeup, soft-spoken and trembling. Even I almost believed her performance. The judge looked at me and said, "Until we settle the dispute, she is still your legal responsibility." Raymond whispered, "It's temporary. We'll get it reversed." But that didn't matter, because she walked out of that courtroom smiling again. That same evil, satisfied smirk I'd seen in the backyard when she was sitting on Stanley's lap. And I hated how familiar it felt. It took everything in me not to fall apart again. But that night, I went home, opened the cloud backup, reviewed every file again, and I found something I'd missed. A shared calendar entry from 6 months ago, hidden in a backup from a burner Google account Julia once used for job hunting. The event title? Backdate filing, Ronald has template. Attached to it? A PDF labeled, Draft DV Affidavit, Edit Name, and Remove Cats. She hadn't just faked a story. She'd been preparing a false abuse affidavit months before she even filed for divorce. It was premeditated. It was coordinated. It was criminal. I forwarded it to Raymond. His response? "This is it." Raymond filed the motion on Monday. Attached were the hidden calendar logs, the forged affidavit draft, the metadata trail proving the file wasn't just old, it was designed months in advance. Premeditated. Intentional. Malicious. The court responded in under 48 hours. A fraud review hearing was scheduled. If the judge ruled in our favor, her alimony request would be thrown out, and perjury charges could follow. That same afternoon, I got a call. Unknown number. It was her. "Julia." "Troy," she said, voice quiet. "Can we meet?" I hesitated. Everything in me screamed no. But something colder, something heavier said yes. I told her to meet me in the parking lot behind the old movie theater, where we used to sneak food in our first year of marriage. Thought it'd sting. Thought maybe she'd remember the version of us that still believed in each other. She showed up 10 minutes late. No makeup. No jewelry. Hair messy like she'd stopped caring or wanted me to think so. She didn't say anything at first. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a thin folder. "I got the court notice," she whispered. "The fraud hearing." I said nothing. She looked up at me, eyes rimmed red. "I know you hate me. You have every reason to." I still said nothing. Then she did something I'll never forget. She dropped to her knees. Right there. In the dirt and oil stains. Hands shaking. Voice breaking. "Troy, please don't submit the rest." Her voice cracked. "If this goes through, I could lose everything. My record. My ability to work. I'll have a criminal charge. No one will touch me. I know I deserve it. I know I do. But please, I'm begging you, don't finish it." She started crying. Not the crocodile kind I'd seen before. Not the manipulative performance she gave the court. Real crying. Raw. Ugly. Helpless. I stood there, the evidence on a flash drive in my jacket pocket. One email away from ending her completely. But I didn't move. I just looked at her, this woman who tried to destroy me in every way a person can be destroyed without violence. And I thought about everything. The backyard. The lies. The cats. The job. The fear. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out the flash drive, held it in my hand, and said, "I could ruin you." She looked up, barely able to breathe. "I know. I should." She nodded. "I know." Then I bent down, placed the flash drive in her hand, and said quietly, "I forgive you." She broke completely, collapsed into herself. I turned and walked away. Didn't say another word. Didn't look back. Because this wasn't about her anymore. This was about me, finally choosing not to carry the rot she left behind. And now? I'll ask you what I asked myself that day. What would you have done in my place?